All right, we're going to start taking notes on the second type of special right triangle, which is a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So you're going to go ahead and record these in your spiral notebook. Okay. So a 30, 60, 90-degree triangle means you have a 90-degree angle, you have a 60-degree angle, and you have a 30-degree angle. So now this makes a scalene triangle, which means none of the sides are the same. You have a triangle with three different sides. You have a short leg, a long leg, and a hypotenuse. Now you're going to see that the short leg is going to be across or opposite from the 30-degree angle. So again, the short leg is across from the 30-degree angle, and the long leg is across from the 60-degree angle. So if you're a 60-degree angle, you go to the side opposite from it. And then the hypotenuse is always the side opposite from the 90-degree angle. And so kind of like the 45, 45, 90, the sides fall within a ratio of each other. So we move this out the way. So the short leg, or the leg opposite the 30-degree angle, will be our x. The hypotenuse, which is opposite the 90-degree angle, is 2x. And then the long leg, which is opposite of the 60-degree angle, is x times the square root of 3. Okay, so that's the ratios that these fall into. And so one of the way I kind of distinguish this from a 45, 45, 90 is that a 45, 45, 90 has two of the same size, so that one has a square root of 2. Whereas this one, a 30, 60, 90, you got three different angles, so this one has a square root of 3. So hopefully that helps you differentiate between which ones are which. Okay. So, like when solving all of these problems, we need to find the short leg to help you find the other side length. So if you have the short leg, you should be able to easily plug those into the other ratios and figure out what the side lengths are. And if you don't have the X or the short side, then you find out the short side and then you find the other missing side. All right, so let's do a couple of examples. We're actually going to do 6 examples. So in example 1, we have a 60-degree angle and then we have a 90-degree angle. So we know, since all triangles have to add up to 180, that this angle must be 30 degrees. And so now we know we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So across from the 30 degree or opposite the 30 degree, this is my X side. And then across from the 60 degree would be my X times the square root of 3 side. And then across from the 90-degree angle, the hypotenuse, which is labeled as side A, it's 2x. So in this case, we know that x is equal to 9 because that was told to us. So now we need to find a when a is 2x. So we'll just do 2 times 9, which will get 18. So now we know that a is equal to 18. And then if we need to find b, we're going to plug in x for x times the square root of 3. So we know we have x times the square root of 3, and we know that x is 9. So we have 9 times the square root of 3. We can't simplify anymore, so we know the length of b is 9 square roots of 3. And so now we know all three sides of this right triangle. All right, let's go on to our next example, example 2. And so in example 2, we see a 60-degree angle and we see a 90-degree angle. So we know that the other angle must be a 30-degree angle. Okay, so now we know that our short side is over here. So that's x. And then we know the hypotenuse is going to be 2 times x. And we know that the long leg, which is across from the 60-degree angle, is x times the square root of 3. Okay, so in this case, we already know that x is equal to the square root of 2 over 2. So we can already go ahead and put that down. Okay, so now let's try to find the hypotenuse, which we need to do 2 times x, which is 2 times square root of 2 over 2. Okay, so then we can put this over 1, and that's where we get 2 times the square root of 2 over 2. And then we can simplify here, which equals the square root of 2. Okay, so now we know that m is equal to the square root of 2. And then let's find n, which is on the x times the square root of 3. So we do x times the square root of 3. And we know that x is the square root of 2 divided by 2. And then we want to multiply that by the square root of 3, which we can put square root of 3 over 1, so it balances out. And so now multiply. Oops, sorry. So now we have square root of 2 times the square root of 3, which is square root of 6. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And then we can't simplify that anymore because square root of 6 can't be simplified anymore. So we know that this is n, this is m, and we already knew that the short side was square root of 2 over 2. Okay. So we know we have a 30, 60, 90 triangle. So here we know we have a 30-degree angle. Okay, so now what do we have? Well, across from the 30-degree angles, we have short side, so we know that's represented by x. We know across from the 60-degree side over here, this would be our x times the square root of 3. And then across from the 90-degree angle is our hypotenuse, which we have 2x. So now we don't know x yet, but we know 2x, so we can use that to figure out the rest. So then we can do 2x equals 18 because that's what we were given. And now we're just going to solve for x. So now we know that x is equal to 9. So we know that v is equal to 9. Okay. And so now then we need to go and find u, which means now that we have x, because remember we always want to try to find x first. So now we know we have x times the square root of 3, and then we just plug in 9 for x, so that's 9 times the square root of 3. So now we know that u is equal to 9 times the square root of 3. So now we have the length of all three sides. We have the hypotenuse, which is 18, which was given, and then we have the short leg, which is 9, and then the long leg, which is 9 times the square root of 13. All right, let's go to example 4. So again, we have a 60-degree angle and a 90-degree angle, so we got a 30, 60, 90. So let's go ahead and fill in our ratios. We know that B is going to be X, and then the hypotenuse is 2X, and then this side, which is the long leg, will be X times the square root of 3. So now let's go ahead and try to find X, but we know 2X, so let's solve that and figure out what X is. So 2X is equal to 4 times square root of 3. Now let's solve for X, so we're going to divide both sides by 2. And so then we get X is equal to, and then here we can simplify. So 4 divided by 2 is 2 times the square root of 3. So now we know that X is equal to 2 times the square root of 3. So that's the length of B. 2 times the square root of 3. And now let's find A. So now that we have X, we need to plug it in for X times the square root of 3. So we have X times the square root of 3, and we're going to plug in our X value. So our X value is 2 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 3. And so now remember, we can multiply the radicals, so we get 2 times the square root of 9. And then the square root of 9 is 3, so we get 2 times 3, which is 6. So now that we know that A is 6. So A is 6, B is 2 root 3, and we knew that the hypotenuse was 4 root 3. All right, 2 more examples. So in this one, we have a 30-degree and a 90-degree, so then we know the other angle must be a 60-degree angle. And I like to fill in all this information just so I'm clear. So we know that opposite the 30-degree angle is the side, the short side was represented by X. Across from the hypotenuse is represented by 2X. And across from the 60-degree angle, which is the long side, is X times the square root of 3. So now we need to figure out what X is. We don't know what that is yet, but we do know that X times the square root of 3 is equal to 4. And so now let's solve for X, and how are we going to do that? We're going to divide both sides by the square root of 3. And so here the square root of 3 is canceled, so we have X is equal to 4 divided by the square root of 3. Now, what don't we like about that? We don't like that there's a radical in the denominator, so we need to rationalize it. So we got to multiply the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 3. And so we have 4 root 3 over the root of 9, which is 4 times the root 3 over 3. And being that I can't simplify that anymore, I know this is what X is equal to, which is 4 root 3 divided by 3. So now we have 2 out of 3 sides, and we need to find the hypotenuse. So now we need to do 2x, and that'll give me the hypotenuse. So we know that x is 2 times 4 times the square root of 3 over 3. And if you like, we can put this over 1. So remember, you can multiply everything on the outside. So this is 8 root 3 divided by 3. I can't simplify anymore. So this is the length of the hypotenuse. So we know that we were given the long side, which is 4. We know that the short side, which is x, is 4 root 3 divided by 3. And we know the long side is 8 root 3 divided by 3. All right, and then so we're here at our last example. So we have a 30, a 90-degree angle. So now we know that this must be a 60-degree angle. So again, from across from the 30-degree angle is the short side, so we label that X. Across from the 90-degree angle is the hypotenuse, so we label that 2X. And across from the 60-degree angle is the long side, and that's X times the square root of 3. So now we need to figure out, well, what exactly is X? Because we don't know that yet. But we know that the X times the square root of 3 is equal to 8 times the root of 3. So in order to solve for X, we're going to divide both sides by the square root of 3. Square roots of 3 cancel. X is equal to, and then on this side, square roots of 3 cancel as well, 8. So we know the short side is 8. And now in order to figure out the length of the hypotenuse, we're going to do 2x, and we know that x is 8, so we do 2 times 8, which is 16. So then we know this side is 16. And so now if you make sure you understand what the ratios are between a 30, 60, 90, or whether a 45, 45, 90, you should be able to find the missing sides. Okay, and that's it.